Hello and welcome everybody to this XTB live news. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst for XTB. And in this brief video, we're going to be talking about the main events happening in the markets today, what to keep an eye out from the economic calendar point of view, and we're going to take a look at some charts to see what's happening on the markets in this period of major volatility. So as some of you may be aware, we're going to be covering some major events today happening both in the news macroeconomically and some major levels technically that are being reached on the charts. Before that, of course, as always, the disclaimer. And now let's get on to a quick recap of the economic calendar, both today with not many events happening left today, except for the US API report, which of course is important because we will also be receiving the government report in the next couple of days for oil inventories in the US, which, as many of you may know, oil has become a very exceedingly volatile market lately. But the main highlight really seems to be, besides the consumer confidence, is the Wall Street earnings season that continues. So the first couple of weeks we had major financial institutions. Last week we had the upset with Netflix, and some of you may have seen the stock of Netflix drop over or around 20%. But today we have some major earnings as well, with some major companies kicking off this week. 3M, American Express, General Electric, Johnson & Johnson, Lockheed Martin. Microsoft is a very particularly interesting one because they announced last week that they would be acquiring Activision Blizzard for around $69 billion, and Verizon Communications as well will be announcing. But the Microsoft story will be something to keep an eye on, especially considering what happened to the stock price of Activision after they announced the acquisition, and also if you followed what happened to the stock price of Sony following that whole situation as well. So that's going to be worth keeping an eye on. Besides that, let's take a look at some charts. So as you can see, let's take a start with the stock market. Stock market, which has been fluctuating quite heavily on the back of several pieces of news. Really, we've had the inflation narrative that has been tied into the central bank decisions. And tomorrow we actually have the FOMC decision on the rates. So that's something that a lot of traders and investors will be looking at very closely, because it could determine the next few months of economic policy and monetary policy in the US. Now, unlikely that they're going to go and change the interest rate drastically, but there could be hints in which direction they're heading, especially considering there might be adjustments after all these moves that we've seen on the stock market. So here you see the Nasdaq, which has been particularly susceptible, these tech stocks, to these fluctuations and moves from the after the news by central bankers. So we've seen this significant drop of around 15%, and currently the index is trading around 14,100 points. And you can see that if I remove some of these lines here, you can see that it's quite close to this previous reaction area, and around these two moving averages, the 8 EMA and the 21 SMA, and still remains below the 50 SMA. So pretty important indicators that we're still below, but earnings season is among us. And also we're going to be seeing the news upcoming from the FOMC tomorrow. So those might be events that might move the markets. In addition to all of that, there's, of course, the Russia-Ukraine story and narrative that's happening there, where, as some of you may know, there are rising tensions on the borders between Russia and Ukraine once again, and Western nations are trying to intervene on some extent, while Russia is also potentially planning something, but keeping its plans quite secret. So that uncertainty is also leading to some instability in markets, particularly in Russian stocks, but also in global stocks. Here we can see the US 500, which after yesterday's drop then managed to recover slightly, but today we are seeing another drop, not quite to the lows from yesterday, but still significant. You can see here 1.5% above that, and below both moving averages here that we can see the blue, or the yellow and the purple line, excuse me. Once again, worth keeping an eye out, both the macroeconomic data from the US, and also, as I said, you can see here we are approaching some significant lows that we have to go quite far back to see. But worth keeping an eye out, the fact that the RSI is around 35, so not quite oversold, but definitely not overbought either. So besides that, we can actually take a look at the UK index and see what's happening in the UK. And you can see that it actually is a slightly more positive approach, especially after today's data from the UK that we received this morning. Besides that, let's take a look at some commodities. Oil, which has been a very, very interesting topic of discussion among investors and markets. We can see that after this significant upward move, which led it to around a 7-year high of $90-ish, not quite, but 89.50. We can see that it pulled back and managed to rebound off this previous low around $85, which is both a psychological level and also a previous reaction area, which you can see here acted as a resistance a few times and then potentially support a couple of times as well. So after this almost 5% drop, we can see the prices are once again rebounding from this area, about up 1% today after pulling back. And if we want to draw it on the short term, you can see that this area is a price reaction area as well. But why is it important? Because oil also, in addition to all the inflation narrative and all of that news, is being affected by the potential increase in energy prices brought by a potential conflict in the European Union, I would say, with the Ukrainian-Russian border situation. So that, because Russia supplies so much natural gas and resources to the European continent, then that might have an impact on energy prices as a whole. So again, one more thing that is driving some volatility in the market. So it's kind of a convergence of different events all leading to these moves that we are seeing both on stock markets and commodities. WTI, slightly different situation we can see here, testing, of course, positive as well, but testing the lower limit of the Ichimoku cloud on the H1 timeframe. You can see that after some consolidation. But gold also has been a very interesting market as of late. You can see pushing higher, managing to reach once again 1850, which acted as a resistance in the past. You can see gold tended to trade sideways, roughly in a range, and then up break in one of the two ways, and then trade in another range. And we can see here at the moment, gold is testing roughly the upper limit of the previous range, which was just broken around 1845. So, but this other chart that you see here overlaid is actually the US dollar index, which is interestingly enough kind of moving up as the dollar is pulling down as well. So we can see that sometimes they tend to have an inverse relationship, but today we are seeing a similar correlation between the two. But if we zoom out slightly, you can see roughly that when one moves up, the other one tends to move down, but that obviously is not always the case, and it's just used for general direction. But an interesting thing, if we actually want to take a look at the market analysis section, see that US dollar is one of the best performing currencies today as well, in anticipation of tomorrow's central bank decision. So that's going to be a key topic for US dollar traders as well as other currency traders. The euro is quite mixed. Again, uncertainty relating to the Russia situation. Pound is quite mixed but positive. The Swiss franc is on the back end, and the Canadian dollar, yen, and Australian dollar are performing quite mixed at the moment. Yen is quite positive, but there are some news sources as well coming in from there. Other than that, let's take a look at some currency pairs with pound USD dropping below previous lows, you can see here, but now managing to hold off around 134.7, 134.8 after reaching a low of 134.3. So it'll be important to break through this this area that seems to be acting as a resistance. We can see it's above the 21 SMA, but quite a long way to go back for the pound to recover, as you can see. Euro USD, on the other hand, is similarly trading below a previous support, a previous support around 113. You can see here, and it broke below it after testing it several times with some lower lows and lower highs. And at the moment, it is trading around 112.7. So 112.7, again, you can see consolidating briefly in that area. A lot of news coming out for that currency pair as well. As I mentioned, a lot more happening throughout the week and a lot more events to keep an eye on. We will be sure to keep you updated here with us at XTB. If you follow the news section, if you follow our content, make sure to tune in next week as well for a top of the week special webinar where I will be giving an overview of the markets as well. So thank you very much for watching. My name is Walid Koudmani, market analyst of XTB. Good luck with your trading.